Can you afford to retire at 60? The honest answer for most people is it's complicated, and it depends on a whole lot of factors that we're going to break down today. The dream of retiring at 60 is incredibly appealing. You're still young enough to enjoy your retirement. You have energy. You have time to travel, pursue hobbies, spend time with family, do all the things you've been putting off while you were working. But the financial reality of retiring at 60 is very different from retiring at 65 or 70, and most people don't fully understand just how different it is. First, let's talk about why 60 is such a challenging retirement age financially. The biggest issue is that you're retiring before you're eligible for a lot of the benefits and programs that make retirement financially viable for most Americans. You can't get Medicare until you're 65. You can't get your full Social Security benefit until somewhere between 66 and 67, depending on when you were born. If you take Social Security early at 62, which is the earliest you can take it, you're going to get a significantly reduced benefit for the rest of your life. So if you retire at 60, you're looking at a 5 to 7 year gap where you need to cover all of your living expenses, including health insurance, entirely from your own savings and resources. Let's break down the numbers, because this is where reality hits hard. The average American has saved nowhere near enough for retirement. The median retirement savings for Americans in their 50s is around $150,000. That sounds like a lot until you realize you might need to make that money last 30 or 40 years. If you retire at 60 and live to 90, that's 30 years of retirement you need to fund. Can $150,000 last 30 years? Not even close, especially when you factor in healthcare costs, inflation, and unexpected expenses. Financial advisors often use the 4% rule as a guideline. The idea is that you can safely withdraw 4% of your retirement savings each year without running out of money. So if you have $500,000 saved, you could withdraw $20,000 per year. If you have $1 million, you could withdraw $40,000 per year. But here's the problem. Most people don't have anywhere near $1 million saved. And even if you do, can you live on $40,000 a year? Maybe, if you own your home outright, have no debt, and live very frugally. But that's not a comfortable retirement for most people. Now let's talk about health care, because this is absolutely critical, and it's where a lot of people's retirement plans fall apart. If you retire at 60, you have 5 years before Medicare eligibility. During those 5 years, you need private health insurance, and it's expensive, really expensive. If you're buying insurance on the individual market through the Affordable Care Act exchanges, you could be looking at premiums of $1,000 to $1,500 per month or more, depending on where you live and what coverage you need. That's $12,000 to $18,000 per year just for health insurance premiums, before you pay any deductibles or out-of-pocket costs. Some people think they can just go without health insurance for those 5 years and roll the dice. That is incredibly risky and potentially financially catastrophic. One serious illness, one accident, one cancer diagnosis, and you could be facing hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills that would completely wipe out your retirement savings and potentially bankrupt you. Healthcare costs are the #1 cause of bankruptcy for seniors, and going without insurance is playing Russian roulette with your financial future. If you're lucky enough to have retiree health benefits from your employer, that can help, but those are becoming increasingly rare. Most private sector employers don't offer retiree health benefits anymore, and even many public sector employers are scaling them back or eliminating them. So you need to plan on paying for your own health insurance from 60 to 65, and you need to budget realistically for those costs. Let's talk about Social Security, because a decision about when to take it is one of the most important financial decisions you'll make in retirement. You can start taking Social Security as early as age 62, but if you do, your benefit is permanently reduced by about 25 to 30% compared to what you'd get at your full retirement age. If your full retirement age benefit would be $2,000 per month, taking it at 62 means you'd only get about $1,400 per month for the rest of your life. On the flip side, if you delay taking Social Security past your full retirement age, your benefit increases by about 8% per year until age 70. So if you could get $2,000 at your full retirement age of 67, waiting until 70 would get you about $2,500 per month. That's a huge difference over the course of a 20 or 30-year retirement. If you retire at 60, you're facing a tough decision. Do you take Social Security at 62 and accept a permanently reduced benefit? Or do you wait until your full retirement age, or even until 70, which means you need to fund 6 to 10 years of retirement entirely from your savings? There's no one right answer. It depends on your health, your life expectancy, your savings, your expenses, and your personal situation. But you need to understand the trade-offs and make an informed decision. Now, let's talk about what you actually need to have saved to retire at 60. There are different rules of thumb that financial planners use. One common guideline is that you need about 25 times your annual expenses saved. So if you need $40,000 per year to live on, you need $1 million saved. If you need $60,000 per year, you need $1.5 million. If you need $80,000 per year, you need $2 million. Another approach is to think about replacement income. Most financial planners suggest you'll need about 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to maintain your standard of living in retirement. So if you're earning $80,000 a year before retirement, you need about $56,000 to $64,000 per year in retirement. Some of that will come from Social Security, but you need savings to make up the difference, especially in those early years before you're taking Social Security. Here's a reality check. Most Americans are nowhere close to these savings targets. If you're in your late 50s and you have a couple $100,000 saved, you're actually ahead of most people, but you're still probably not in a position to retire comfortably at 60. You might need to work a few more years, or you might need to significantly reduce your lifestyle expectations in retirement, or both. Let's talk about housing, because this is a huge factor in whether you can afford to retire at 60. If you still have a mortgage, that's a major monthly expense that's going to make retirement much more difficult. Ideally, you want to have your home paid off before you retire. If you're still paying a mortgage at 60 and you retire, you're going to burn through your savings much faster. Some people consider downsizing, selling their larger family home and buying something smaller and cheaper, and using the difference to boost their retirement savings. That can be a smart move, but you need to factor in all the costs of selling and buying, including real estate commissions, moving costs, and emotional costs of leaving a home you love. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, and maintenance costs don't go away even if your mortgage is paid off. In some states, these costs are manageable. In others, especially in places like Florida, New Jersey, California, they can be very high. You need to budget realistically for the full cost of homeownership in retirement. Some seniors consider relocating to lower-cost areas to make retirement more affordable. Moving from an expensive state to a cheaper one can significantly stretch your retirement dollars. But you need to consider what you're giving up. Are you leaving family and friends? Are you moving away from doctors you trust? Are you going somewhere with a lower quality of life? These are personal decisions with no right or wrong answers, but they need to be thought through carefully. Let's talk about debt, because if you're carrying significant debt into retirement, that's going to make retiring at 60 very difficult or impossible. Credit card debt, car loans, personal loans, any kind of high-interest debt needs to be paid off before you retire if at all possible. The last thing you want is to be on a fixed income in retirement while trying to make debt payments. That's a recipe for financial stress and potentially disaster. Student loan debt is an increasingly common problem for people approaching retirement. Some people are still paying off their own student loans from decades ago. Others have taken on debt to help their children or grandchildren with college. If you have student loan debt, you need a plan for dealing with it. Some federal student loans can be discharged or forgiven under certain circumstances, especially for people on income-driven repayment plans. But private student loans are much harder to deal with. This is something you need to address before retiring, not after. Now let's talk about expenses in retirement, because a lot of people underestimate how much they're actually going to spend. There's this idea that expenses automatically go down in retirement. You're not commuting to work anymore. You're not buying work clothes. Maybe you're not eating out for lunch every day. Those savings are real, but they're often offset by other expenses that increase. Healthcare costs tend to go up as you age. You might spend more on hobbies and travel, especially in the early years of retirement when you're healthy and active. Home maintenance costs don't go away. Your property taxes and insurance keep going up. One expense that people often forget about is helping family members. A lot of retirees end up providing financial help to adult children, grandchildren, or elderly parents. Maybe your kid loses their job and needs help with rent. Maybe your grandchild needs money for college. Maybe your own elderly parent needs expensive care. These are unpredictable expenses that can really derail your retirement budget if you're not careful. You need to be realistic about your ability to help others financially when you're on a fixed income yourself. Let's talk about inflation, because this is a huge issue for early retirees that doesn't get enough attention. If you retire at 60 and live to 90, that's 30 years of inflation eating away at your purchasing power. Even at a modest 3% annual inflation rate, the cost of living will roughly double over 25 years. What costs $40,000 per year today will cost $80,000 per year in 25 years. Your retirement savings need to not just last, they need to grow enough to keep pace with inflation, or you're going to see your standard of living decline steadily over time. Social Security benefits are adjusted for inflation, which is good. But if you're living primarily off your savings in the early years of retirement, before Social Security and Medicare kick in, you're very vulnerable to inflation. This is why financial planners often recommend having at least some of your retirement savings invested in stocks rather than just holding cash or bonds. Stocks historically have provided returns that outpace inflation over the long term, but they also come with risk and volatility, which can be scary for retirees. Now, let's talk about part-time work, because for many people retiring at 60, some kind of part-time work is part of the equation. Maybe you don't want to work full-time anymore, but working part-time doing something you enjoy can provide extra income to supplement your savings and delay the need to tap into Social Security. Part-time work also provides structure, social interaction, and a sense of purpose, which are important for mental and emotional well-being in retirement. The key is finding work that you actually want to do, that's not too physically demanding or stressful, and that pays reasonably well for the time invested. Consulting in your former field, freelancing, teaching, retail, or hospitality work. These are all options that some retirees pursue, but you need to be realistic. Part-time work opportunities for seniors can be limited, and age discrimination is real even if it's illegal. Don't count on being able to work part-time if you haven't lined something up before retiring. Let's talk about long-term care, because this is one of the biggest financial risks facing retirees, and most people are completely unprepared for it. The majority of people will need some kind of long-term care assistance as they age, whether that's in home care, assisted living, or nursing home care. And it's incredibly expensive. A private room in a nursing home can cost $70,000 to $100,000 per year or more. Even in home care, several hours per day can cost $30,000 to $50,000 per year. Medicare does not cover most long-term care costs. Medicaid will cover nursing home care, but only after you've spent down almost all of your assets. Long-term care insurance can help, but it's expensive, especially if you wait until you're older to buy it. Many people in their 60s find that long-term care insurance is either prohibitively expensive or they can't qualify because of health issues. If you retire at 60 with limited savings and no long-term care plan, a major health event requiring extended care could completely wipe out everything you have and leave you dependent on Medicaid and whatever family support you might have. This is a risk you need to understand and plan for as best you can. So with all of these challenges, can you afford to retire at 60? Here's the reality. If you have $1 million or more in retirement savings, your home is paid off, you have no debt, you're in good health, and you have a plan for health care coverage until Medicare, then yes, you can probably retire at 60 and live comfortably. You're in the minority, but it's doable. If you have $500,000 to $1 million saved, own your home with no debt, and are willing to live modestly and possibly do some part-time work, you can probably make it work, though it will require careful budgeting and financial discipline. If you're less than $500,000 saved, still have a mortgage or other debt, or don't have a solid plan for health care, retiring at 60 is going to be very difficult and risky. You would likely be much better off working a few more years, even if it's part-time, to build up more savings and get closer to Medicare and full Social Security eligibility. The bottom line is this: retiring at 60 is possible, but it requires significantly more financial preparation than retiring at 65 or 70. You need more savings because you're funding more years without Social Security and Medicare. You need to bridge that gap, and it's expensive. For most Americans, working until at least 65, when Medicare kicks in, makes retirement much more financially feasible. If you're dreaming of retiring at 60, start planning now. Run the numbers honestly. Calculate your expected expenses, including health care. Look at your savings and do realistic projections. Meet with a financial advisor if possible. Understand your Social Security options. Make a plan for health care coverage. Pay off debt. Maximize your savings in these final working years. Every extra dollar you save and every extra year you work makes a huge difference in your retirement security. And remember, retirement isn't all or nothing. You don't have to go from working 40 hours a week to working 0 hours overnight. Phased retirement, where you gradually reduce your hours over several years, can be a great option. It gives you more free time and less stress while still providing income and allowing your retirement savings to continue growing. Thanks for watching The Golden Senior Finance. If this video helped you think more clearly about your retirement plans, please share it with friends and family who might benefit. Drop a comment below telling us your retirement plans or questions. And please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're putting out videos every week on Social Security, Medicare, retirement planning, and everything else seniors need to know about their finances. Your golden years should be your best years, and we're here to help make that happen. See you in the next one.